Hey, I've been outside doing my stretches and I'm all sweaty, and I thought rather than jump in the shower right away, since I'm already a bit of a mess, let me get my paints out and put some primer on this sign. This is an old fan blade and I love to use recycled stuff. I don't like to go out and buy wood for these projects. That's just driving the cost up, and if I'm recycling, then I'm getting something out of the environment, putting it to good use. Listen to the noises around me, the garden sounds. Okay, so what I'm actually using, I notice I use that word a lot actually. I'm using primer, and it's a 1, 2, 3, covers everything. So since this is a bit of a slick surface, I want to cover it, give it a coat with something that's gonna help the paint to really adhere. But I'm also the no rules girl, so while I'm at it adding the primer, I often just jump in and start adding some of the color. I don't have to cover the entire background. Like, I can see little bits of the brown showing through. That's way okay with me. Even though there's still streaks of the brown showing through, that's no biggie. I go for a more rustic look, and that's gonna really work well with my aesthetic. Less is more where this is concerned, and I just add my color. If I don't like it, I can go back and throw some more white on it, and it's those layers, almost said actually, it's those layers of color and correction that sometimes make wonderful mistakes that you really fall in love with. And see, it's already looking interesting. I like a kind of a wash look where it's not too solid, and the interest of the letters, the letters will have more impact. It's not all about an even background. I really like to see some interest going on, and I'm gonna add a little bit of yellow because that will give me some of the greens that I really enjoy. Notice I didn't let it dry in between. It's that naughty side of me, plus the impatience. And I'm just working the colors through. Now I feel like I want to touch just a little bit more blue through here. Yeah, I'm good with that. I'll just let this dry for a while. I'm back. I had that shower and paint is dry. So now all I have to do is decide what I'm gonna put on this sign. And what I usually do is grab a piece of chalk and I write it in chalk what I intend to paint. That way I have a good idea of how the size is going to fit on the sign, and if I don't like it or if I need to make adjustments, I can erase it and try again. Just going to do something and I'm happy with that. So I grab my paint. I usually work in either black or white depending on the background. I keep refilling one of these paint bottles with a very narrow tip. That gives me that writing size tip that's gonna make the letters a lot easier to do than painting with a paintbrush. So I just get in here, and the more I think about it is the more wobbly it's gonna be. So I'm just gonna go as smoothly and as quickly as I can, not think about it too much. Let me just check and make sure the paint is flowing. Then I'm just gonna go for it. Don't look at me too hard and make me nervous. Okay. Yes. After that, I just come in and maybe go over the lettering a little bit. Let me change the camera angle so you can see. Look, my sign is all dry. It's wonderful. So what's next? Well, remember all these chalk marks that I used, kind of like for my rough work? I have to remove those now, and I'm just gonna use the paintbrush with a little bit of water, not too much. And I'm gonna come in because the paint is absolutely dry. There's no risk of smudging it. And I'm going to wipe away the chalk marks. Easy peasy. And there you have it. Now, because it's a fan blade, there are some holes here from the mechanics of the fan, and You could leave that if you really want to emphasize the fan blade story. But what I usually do at this point is I cover 2 of the holes, and I utilize this hole and put another one here in order to hang the sign from a piece of twine. What I will do now is find some interesting pieces to cover these holes. What I need to do is decide where I'm going to put my shells. But while I have the sign in this position, what I'm noticing is some little streaks within the black paint that I'm not so crazy about. I was also noticing the angle of this bit here, which I'm not crazy about. I'm going to come in with a permanent marker, and I am going to make some minor adjustments. And I'll just cover up the little bits of white or the background that's showing through. I can spend quite some time neatening things up, but in the long run I don't know that it will be that noticeable. Once your sign is hanging, the overall feel is rustic. And sometimes you have to be cautious not to spend too much time fiddling about with a project where, especially if you're gonna sell it, you start to use up so much of your time and labor that it's not going to be something you can charge for, or it'll make your end product so expensive that it takes longer to sell. So I'm not looking to cheat anyone and not give them a beautiful product, but also know what look you're going for and be true to that. There's a difference in the sheen of the permanent pen, the Sharpie, and the paint. But once I put a coat of spray gloss over top, sealer, they'll all become quite equal. The more I look is the more that I see that I can correct. But I'm gonna force myself to stop and let's move to the next step. What I want to do is to cover these holes, and it's just easy enough to place a shell over top of these holes. I'm also gonna do some sand in the background along with those shells so that it looks like a scene where the water actually came in, brought the shells with it, brought the sand with it, and maybe slipped back into the ocean. I found this, and it's an old magnet that lost the top of the turtle shell, but I wanted to show you that we can actually incorporate this. Right here, there's a fingerprint, and that's going to be covered up just nicely. I can use a piece of sea glass to replace his missing shell. I'll throw some brown on this side maybe to go with the brown of the turtle. Not necessarily, but just go with what you feel. I like that. And because I'm gonna hang the sign, I'm also looking to balance the weight of the things that I add on each side, or else my sign will start to lean. one way or the other. Okay, let me not mess around all day. Let me just do this. So I'm just gonna move them out the way once I've decided what I want to use, and then I'm gonna add my E6000, and I am gonna remember that I'm going to add some sand, so I'm gonna go outside of the range of where I'm placing the pieces, and I like on this side to taper off just the way the sand becomes less and less, kind of a natural looking scene. I'm going to position these guys. I can put that on after. That dog is going crazy today. Wonder who messed with him. Just a different color shell for more interest. Tiny piece of sea glass. And this is the fun part. I get my sand, which has some broken shells in it, and I add that, just sprinkle it. Even press down on some of it to make sure it's getting into those spaces. I can even stick a shell here where I see the glue is deeper. Afterwards, I can brush off the excess sand, but right now I want to make sure that all my glue is going to be hidden, so I'm going quite heavy on the sand. And I'll do the same on this side. I prefer for it to trail off at the edge, but do what pleases your eye. I'm not going right to the edge. That again is something that you can do differently, whatever your preference is. And that will cover that nicely. That will cover that just enough. Don't even remember how they went, but just come in and place these beauties once again. I'd like something tiny on this side to just trail off. Okay. Push that sand just lightly into place. If I just sprinkle the sand on, it might just have one layer of sand resting on top of the glue, because the glue is quite gelatinous when it's sitting on the surface. But if I put some pressure on it, then I'm getting more and more grains of sand, which is a deeper layer, and therefore it looks less like the glue and more like my little sandy beach effect that I'm going for. Okay, and here I made a little smudge yesterday, and I'm just gonna show you how much this is just like playing around and having fun. Just come in maybe with a little bit of white and add a smudge of white. If it's too dry, I can add some water. Play around and don't be scared. A little bit of white will kind of add some interest too. It's a beachy scene after all, and that looks like the foamy white of the waves. Don't be afraid to play. And have fun. You might find some new techniques or looks that you like. Now I'm going to leave this to dry again. How about adding turtle's shell right now? This is quite roughed up already, and this has some scratches in it, so I think this glass will stick nicely. Ew, too much glue, and it's coming over the sides, and I'm just gonna throw some sand on that because Turtle Boy, he's been in the ocean. A little bit of sand on him wouldn't look wrong. A little bit of glue would look kind of out of place, but some sand would look just about right. Because the glue is basically gelatinous, it does take, say, overnight or 24 hours to dry, but if I am very careful, I can tap some of this glue off right now. Sorry, not the glue, the sand. It's gonna make a mess. It's not gonna go in the container. Some is and some isn't. But just to give you an idea. And see? It's looking cute, isn't it? I'll leave this to dry now. And we'll check out the finished product once that's good to go. Voila. There it is, all finished. So it's acrylic paint and I put spray sealer on it, but because it's a fan blade, it's really not suitable for outdoor use. But looks cute right there posing, doesn't it?